Out there on the Appalachia Trail, the woods don't feel empty. They watch you. People talk about the beauty, the quiet, but no one warns you about the footsteps that match your pace, even when you stop. If you've never heard something breathing behind a tree too big to hide a person, you're lucky. Tonight, I'm sharing 3 stories from hikers who came back shaking, and some who almost didn't come back at all. You're watching Scary Nights by Malik. Settle in, dim the lights. And if you've ever thought about hiking the Appalachia Trail alone, these stories might change your mind. Let's start with the first one. The moment a peaceful hike turned into a nightmare no one can explain. There's a part of the Appalachian Trail most maps don't show clearly, a deep, narrow valley called Bloodroot Hollow. Sounds pretty, right? It isn't. The place got its name from the red sap that leaks out of the roots there. Locals say it's iron in the soil, but when you see it in person, thick, dark, and wet as it runs across the dirt, it doesn't look like sap. I ended up there a few years ago with 2 brothers I'd met along the trail, Eli and Tom. They were weekend hikers, good guys, loud, always joking. We planned to camp a night in the hollow because it was flat, quiet, and off the main path. We should have kept walking. First night was fine, crickets, campfire, bourbon passed around. But right after midnight, I woke to this weird sound under the ground. Not footsteps, not wind. A slow, wet, dragging noise, like something heavy was shifting just below the soil. I thought I was dreaming until Tom sat up and whispered, "Tell me you hear that too." Eli laughed from his sleeping bag. Probably raccoons digging for grubs. But the sound wasn't moving away. It was circling us. Eventually it stopped, and we tried to sleep. When we woke up in the morning, the dirt around our camp looked wrong, like it had been stirred up from underneath. The ground was soft, like someone had dug and refilled it. We packed up fast, ready to leave, but Eli said he'd lost his knife and started poking around near an old oak tree. He called us over a few minutes later. Right by the roots, there was a slit in the ground, narrow but deep. He shined his flashlight inside, and the beam hit something pale. At first, I thought it was stone. Then it twitched. Eli jumped back, swore, said it looked like skin. Tom leaned in with his light and said, "Hell, that's a hand." But before we could look again, the ground shifted, like something underneath had rolled over, and the slit just closed. The soil sealed itself. Eli wanted to dig, but I told him not to. The air had gone heavy, and this weird hum had started, low and steady, like the earth was vibrating. We left, or tried to. By the time the sun started setting, fog had drifted in, thick as smoke. We couldn't find the trail markers. Every direction looked the same, tall black trees and that reddish mud sucking at our boots. We ended up back near the same oak without realizing it. Our footprints were everywhere, looping over each other. We were losing light fast, so we set up camp again, right where we started. None of us talked much that night. Around midnight, I woke to a whisper, not from outside, from under my tent. A voice, muffled and weak, saying, "Let me up." I froze. The whisper came again, louder, "Let me up." I yelled for Eli and Tom, and they both shot awake. Tom grabbed his flashlight, unzipped his tent, and then everything went quiet. We waited, not breathing. Then came this rumbling noise, deep, hollow, like the ground exhaling. The dirt under Eli's tent started to sink, slowly at first, then fast, pulling the fabric down like quicksand. He screamed. We tried to grab him, but the earth swallowed half his body before we could move. I saw his hand, the same one that had reached into that hole, clawing at the mud until it disappeared, and then it was over. Just stillness, flat ground, like nothing had ever been there. Tom broke first. He ran. I chased him, but the fog was thick, and after a minute, I couldn't hear him anymore. When the sun came up, I was the only one left. I found the ranger station hours later, covered in mud and shaking. They searched the hollow for 3 days. Never found Tom, never found Eli. But the ranger who interviewed me said something that still keeps me up. He said, "You're not the first one to come out of Bloodroot Hollow missing people. We close that section off every few years, but the ground, it just keeps opening. I don't hike near there anymore, but sometimes when I'm camping and the night goes too quiet, I swear I can hear it again. That soft, dragging sound just beneath the soil, like something breathing, waiting, and whispering, 'Let me up.'" There's a stretch of trail out past Black Rock Ridge that most hikers skip. It's not on the main route anymore. The park rerouted it years ago after a couple of disappearances. But the old path's still there if you know where to look. The locals just call it the Whistler's Way. I only ended up there by accident. Early spring 2019. Fog had rolled in thick. My GPS was useless, and the markers were half rotted off the trees. I followed what looked like the main trail and didn't realize I'd wandered off until the path narrowed into a rocky ledge with no signs of life for miles. It was dead quiet. No birds, no wind, just this thin, high-pitched sound, a whistle, faint but steady, floating through the trees. At first, I thought it was wind cutting through the rocks. Then it stopped and started again. Same 3 notes, soft, slow, almost careful. It didn't sound random. It sounded like someone making it. I called out, "Hello?" No answer. Just that same tune whistled back to me. I figured it was another hiker messing around, maybe someone camping nearby. But the thing that got me, the direction of the sound kept changing. One moment it was up ahead, then behind me, then off to the right, always the same distance away. By the time the light started fading, my nerves were shot. I found a little clearing just big enough for a tent and decided to stop for the night. The whistling had stopped by then, or maybe I'd convinced myself it had. But around midnight, I woke up to it again. This time it was close, right outside my tent. 3 notes, pause, then again. I unzipped the flap an inch. The forest was completely still, the fog thick enough to block out the stars. Then I saw movement, just a silhouette, tall, standing maybe 20 feet away. I called out again, voice shaking, "Hey, who's there?" No answer, just those same 3 notes, slow and steady. And I swear, I could see his shoulders moving with the sound, like he was the one doing it. I slammed the flap shut and grabbed my light. The beam flickered, barely working, but I could see the outline of boots through the tent wall. He was walking around me, slow circles. Every time he passed, the whistling dipped low, like it was passing through fog. Then it stopped, and right behind me, maybe 2 feet away, I heard breathing, deep, steady, human. I didn't move until the sun started to rise. When I finally stepped outside, there were footprints all around my tent, bare ones, each print pressed deep into the mud, long toes, wide heel, like someone had been pacing around for hours. I packed up and started moving fast, didn't even bother to eat. But the forest felt wrong. Every tree looked the same, every turn felt familiar. And then I saw something carved into a rock ahead, letters scratched deep, rough like with a knife. It said, "He walks when you stop." The dirt below the carving was dark, wet, freshly turned. I don't remember much after that. Just running, falling, getting up again. I didn't stop until I hit a ranger station right off the new trail. When I told them what happened, one of the rangers, older guy, probably seen it all, just sighed and said quietly, "You went up the ridge, didn't you?" He told me a woman had gone missing up there months before. Solo hiker. They found her camp still zipped up, food untouched. The last entry in her trail log said only one thing: "He's whistling again." They never found her body, but a search team swore they heard someone whistling in the fog that night. Same 3 notes over and over. One of them even quit the job after that. Said he kept hearing it in his dreams. The ranger warned me not to go back, told me they closed that section for a reason. I haven't, but sometimes when I'm out late and the wind hits just right, I'll hear it again, faint, distant, those same 3 notes. And every time, it sounds a little closer. So if you're ever hiking near Black Rock Ridge and the woods go too quiet, and you start to hear a soft whistle drifting through the fog, 3 slow notes, don't stop walking, don't look around, and whatever you do, don't whistle back. You ever been up to Klingman's Dome after dark? Most folks go up there for the view, the mountains stretching forever, the air so clean it almost hums. But when the sun drops and the fog starts rolling in, that place doesn't feel peaceful anymore. It feels watched. I found that out a few years back. It was October. I'd been hiking solo through the Smokies, chasing the fall colors before the first snow. I misjudged my daylight and ended up too close to the dome when the sky went that strange deep blue, the kind that swallows shadows. So I decided to camp for the night near the overlook. Someone else was already there, an older hiker, wiry, gray-bearded, looked like he'd been out there half his life. He was sitting by a fire, heating a tin of beans. Said his name was Jack. He was friendly enough, offered me some food, asked where I was headed. We talked about trails and gear until the fire started to die. Then he looked up and said, "You ever hear of the Lantern Man?" I told him no. He didn't smile, just poked at the coals with a stick and said, "Count yourself lucky." He told me about a ranger who went missing back in the 60s, a man named Miller. Storm came in one night, heavy rain, lightning. Miller went out on patrol and never came back. They searched for him for a week, never found a trace, except his lantern. It was hanging from a pine branch miles from his post, cracked glass, rusted handle, but somehow still burning, even after days of rain. Jack said hikers still see that light wandering through the woods on foggy nights, moving slow, steady, like someone still doing rounds long after their shift should have ended. "Best thing you can do," Jack said, "is not to look too close. And don't ever answer if he calls your name." I laughed it off, said he was just trying to spook me. He didn't laugh back. Later that night, I woke to the sound of footsteps outside my tent. Not a bear, 2 even, 1 step at a time. Crunch, crunch. I unzipped the flap just an inch, and I saw it, a faint orange glow moving through the trees. At first, I thought it was Jack, but then I noticed his tent, zipped up still, no light inside. The glow got brighter, coming closer until it stopped right outside my tent. I could see a shadow behind it, tall, shoulders slumped, holding something that swung and clinked softly. Keys. Then I heard it, a low, cracked voice. "Ranger Miller, you seen my way?" It sounded wrong, like someone trying to speak through water. The lantern's flame flickered twice, then went out. I didn't move until the sky started turning gray. When I finally crawled out, the fog was thick, heavy enough to taste. Jack's tent was gone, no sign of a fire, no footprints in the wet ground. I thought maybe I'd dreamed the whole thing, until I saw what was lying next to my pack, a small rusted keychain, stamped with U.S. Park Service, 1961. The metal was cold, I shoved it into my pocket and hiked down as fast as I could. Every few minutes, I heard something behind me, a faint metallic jingle, just barely louder than the wind. When I finally turned around, I saw it, that same orange light, half hidden in the fog. It was following, slow, steady. I ran until my lungs burned, didn't stop until I reached the road. That night, I checked into a cheap roadside lodge. When I emptied my pockets, the keychain was gone. But in my backpack, sitting right on top of my clothes, was a cracked piece of lantern glass, still wet, still smelling like smoke. I left it in that room, didn't even look back when I checked out, haven't been back to Klingman's Dome since. And now, whenever I'm hiking and I see a light flickering through the trees, any light, I just keep walking. Because out there in those mountains, not every flame belongs to the living. And if the lantern man ever finds you in the fog, he might just mistake you for the one who never came back.